Pierce Brosnan's story doesn't begin with fame, cameras, or the polished confidence the world later admired. It begins in a small Irish town where life was quiet, slow, and often uncertain. Born on May 16, 1953, in County Meath, Ireland, Pierce entered a world that quickly became complicated. His father left when he was very young, leaving behind an absence rather than memories. Soon after, his mother moved to London to train as a nurse, hoping to build a better future. That decision meant Pierce spent much of his childhood with relatives, moving between homes as circumstances changed. Though he was cared for, the experience left him feeling like an observer in his own life. The boy who would one day command global attention often felt unnoticed growing up. Those early years quietly shaped his resilience, teaching him to watch, listen, and adapt long before he understood how important those qualities would become later. Finding strength in an uncertain childhood growing up without a consistent home can leave a lasting mark on a child. For Pierce, the constant changes meant learning independence early. He spent time with his grandparents and later with other relatives, each move subtly reminding him that stability was something many people took for granted. School offered little comfort. Without the confidence that comes from a strong support system, he often stayed quiet and observant. Yet within that quietness, creativity began to grow. Drawing and painting became small escapes, moments where he could shape a world that felt entirely his own. Art gave him a sense of control and expression he rarely found elsewhere. Though he didn't realize it then, those creative instincts would eventually guide him toward a career in performance. The loneliness of childhood didn't break him. Instead, it quietly sharpened his awareness of people and emotions, qualities that later made his performances feel authentic. A new beginning in a big city. When Pierce was about 10 years old, his mother asked him to join her in London. She had rebuilt her life there and wanted her son with her. For Pierce, the move was both hopeful and intimidating. London was loud, fast, and unfamiliar compared to the quiet streets of Ireland. Adjusting wasn't easy. His accent set him apart, and he still carried the emotional distance built during years of separation. Yet the city also offered something powerful: opportunity. London exposed him to art, theater, and the creative energy of a place that never stopped moving. Slowly, he began to explore new interests. School introduced him to different forms of expression, and he started to imagine possibilities beyond the life he once expected. Though he still felt like an outsider at times, the city planted a seed. Somewhere in its crowded streets and creative spaces, Pierce began discovering who he could become. The unexpected path to acting, like many young people searching for direction, Pierce didn't immediately find his calling. In his late teens, he experimented with different interests and odd jobs. One of the most unusual was performing fire-eating tricks learned through a small circus group. It was risky and unconventional, but it had an unexpected effect. People paid attention. For a young man who once felt invisible, that attention was thrilling. Soon after, he discovered acting classes and theater workshops, where performance began to feel less like a stunt and more like a meaningful craft. Acting allowed him to explore emotions and stories in ways he had never experienced before. Eventually, he enrolled at the Drama Centre London, a respected acting school known for its demanding training. There, teachers recognized his natural presence and emotional depth. For the first time, Pierce felt he had found a place where his past experiences could become strengths rather than burdens. Building a career step by step. After graduating in the mid-1970s, Pierce Brosnan began working in theater. The roles were small, the pay modest, and the schedule demanding. But every performance helped him grow as an actor. Stage work taught him discipline, patience, and the ability to hold an audience's attention without relying on spectacle. Gradually, television producers began noticing his charisma. His breakthrough arrived in the early 1980s, when he was cast in the popular television series Remington Steele. The show blended mystery, humor, and charm, And Pierce's performance quickly attracted attention. Audiences loved his confidence and wit, qualities that seemed effortless on screen. For the first time, he was becoming a recognizable face internationally. While the series gave him fame, it also hinted at something bigger. Industry insiders began mentioning his name alongside one of cinema's most iconic characters. The possibility of becoming James Bond was suddenly within reach. The dream role that almost slipped away. In the mid-1980s, producers of the James Bond franchise began searching for a new actor to play the famous spy. Pierce Brosnan seemed like a perfect choice. His charm, confidence, and screen presence captured the essence of the character. In 1986, he was officially offered the role. It was a moment many actors dream of their entire careers. However, an unexpected complication arose. Because of contractual obligations with the television series Remington Steele, he could not immediately leave the show. When the network unexpectedly renewed the series, it prevented him from accepting the Bond role. Another actor ultimately stepped into the part. Though disappointing, Pierce handled the situation with professionalism and patience. Instead of dwelling on the missed opportunity, he continued working and refining his craft. Sometimes timing shapes careers as much as talent does, and in Pierce's case, patience would eventually pay off. Finally stepping into the Bond legacy. Nearly a decade later, the opportunity returned. In 1994, the Bond producers approached Pierce again, and this time, the timing aligned perfectly. He accepted the role and began filming GoldenEye. When the film premiered in 1995, audiences immediately embraced him as the new James Bond. His portrayal combined elegance, humor, and emotional depth, refreshing the long-running franchise. Over the next several years, he starred in additional Bond films, including Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day. Each film strengthened his reputation as one of the most memorable actors to play the character. His version of Bond balanced action with sophistication, capturing the spirit of the character for a new generation. Worldwide audiences associated his face with the famous tuxedo and signature confidence, and his films achieved enormous commercial success. Life beyond the famous tuxedo. After 4 Bond films, the franchise eventually moved in a new direction, and Pierce stepped away from the role in the early 2000s. Rather than slowing down, he chose to explore different types of work. He took on roles that allowed him to show humor, vulnerability, and versatility. One standout performance came in The Matador, where he played a very different character from Bond, surprising audiences and critics alike. Later, he appeared in the musical film Mamma Mia, where he enthusiastically embraced singing and comedy. These roles reminded people that Pierce Brosnan was more than a single character. He was an actor willing to try new things and take creative risks. Away from the spotlight, he also returned to painting, a passion from childhood that provided calm and personal expression outside the pressures of fame. Using fame for purpose and good beyond acting, Pierce Brosnan has dedicated significant time to causes that matter to him. He and his wife support environmental conservation efforts, working to protect oceans and natural landscapes. He also advocates for awareness and research related to women's health, supporting organizations that focus on prevention and treatment. Through charity events, public campaigns, and personal contributions, he has helped bring attention to important issues. These efforts reflect his belief that visibility carries responsibility. Instead of allowing fame to exist only as entertainment, he uses it to support meaningful work. His involvement shows that a public platform can become a tool for positive change. Whether speaking about environmental protection or supporting health initiatives, Pierce approaches these causes with sincerity and long-term commitment. The man behind the iconic image. For many people, Pierce Brosnan will always be remembered as the stylish secret agent in a tuxedo. Yet his real story is far richer than any fictional role. It is the story of a boy who once felt unnoticed, a young man who discovered creativity, and an actor who built a remarkable career through patience and perseverance. Over decades, he has balanced fame with family, creativity with responsibility, and ambition with compassion. Today, he continues acting, painting, and supporting causes close to his heart. The image of James Bond may be what introduced him to the world, but the person behind that image is defined by resilience, warmth, and quiet determination. In many ways, that real-life journey is far more inspiring than any cinematic adventure.